Good morning, America. Today's weather report is, this just in. Cuba has become independent, and we have Fidel Castro with the story.
Fidel Castro, before we get to the big news, how was your culture before you became independent?
Most of our men were entrepreneurs, Republican, and built their business off our community.
What was the main religion and government?
Almost all of us were Roman Catholic, but if we weren't, we were non-religious, and our government was a dictatorship.
Oh, so how did this 10-year war break out?
Well, we were under the control of Spain for way too long, so back in 1868 we declared our independence against them, which then led to the 10-year war.
What caused this war to end?
We surrendered in 1878. It was 10 years way too long to keep up with, especially when our men were running out. So we were at the breaking point until Jose Marti returned to fight.
Who is Jose Marti?
He was actually the cause of the Cuban independence, and his passionate belief in democracy and justice has made him a hero for all of us Cubans. He's a symbol of unity, and he's a great leader, and he's actually right here if you want to talk to him.
What year did you return to fight?
I returned in the year 1985.
How did America get into this?
The Americans did not like the Spanish brutality, so they joined the Cuban War to help us fight for independence, which then became the Spanish-American War.
How did the Spanish-American War end?
The Spanish gave up, and in 1901 we became independent. Then after this, Fidel led a revolution.
Did the U.S. ever gain full control of Cuba?
Yes, the Spanish-American War lasted only a few months and was over when the Spanish signed a peace treaty giving them the United States control of Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippine Islands, including Guam. Cuba, however, became an independent country. Rather than the U.S. territory, they never got to establish their own government to us.
Then what was your government after all this happened?
As that with the Platt Amendment finally being approved by the U.S. Congress, Cuba officially became protector of the American yesterday, and the Platt American states that Cuba officially had gained its independence as an island, and then gave the right to govern and carry as they please.
Thank you, Jose. Back to Fidel with the details of the Cuban Revolution.
Why did this revolution start in the first place?
Well, I didn't like the dictator with the name of Fulgencio Batista, so the goal of the Cuban Revolution was to overthrow him.
So did you get anything since this revolution happened?
Yeah, actually, I nationalized the Cuban economy and took over the sugar mills and refineries. I wanted their land and resources.
So what did the United States do after this?
By the 1950s, the U.S. controlled 90% of the Cuban utilities, 90% of the Cuban mines, close to 100% of the country's oil refineries, and 40% of the sugar industry. The U.S. widely did not like Fulgencio Batista, and this was the backdrop of the Cuban Revolution of 1959.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Now with JFK with the story of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Hi, Mr. Kennedy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So how did this whole crisis start?
Well, when the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev began to build 42 missile sites in Cuba, I saw problems arising.
What did you do about this when you found out?
Right away, I declared a blockade on Cuba to prevent Soviets from installing more.
Did Nikita have any compromises to stop this whole situation?
Yeah, actually, he agreed to remove the missiles if the U.S. promised not to invade Cuba.
That's nice to hear. Anything else you want to add about your country?
I do see a war happening later in colonialism, but I don't know about that one yet.
Alright, it's been great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, well, that's enough scoop on Cuba. Breaking news. Now on to the current situation in Cuba.
After all this happened with Cuba, do we have a current president to talk to with what new events have happened since in the current situation?
Well, yes, you're speaking with him right now.
Excuse me?
Fidel Castro was handed a position by the president, by Fidel Castro. After years of my brother leading Cuba, he decided it was time to retire and give the position of being president to me.
Any specific events?
Other than passing a law to sell private property and oil exploitation with Gulf of Mexico in 2009, there was an important event in 2012 that happened.
Please explain.
In 2012, the authorities liberalized duties to allow families to receive food and aid from relatives abroad following a series of hurricanes. The food soon found its way into a commercial market, given Cuba's endemic shortages, prompting a clampdown or attempt to suppress something.
Well, that's enough news for one day. Now back to weather.
Oh my god.
Where'd it go? Oh my god. It would have stung me by now.
Oh, it's right there.
Oh my god.
Oh. No.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, I think it's gone. Okay, guys, sorry.